Greetings, unsettled souls. Welcome to the Correct Views. Sam I. B. DeGangi here with the Media Speaks on Mother's Day. Fortunately, my mother is not with us, so I'm going to dedicate the show to her. Died, I think it's 4 years ago now. She beat sepsis once and then got it again. And I'm really not afraid to say on air, as people trickle in, that if you trust your loved ones to the West Branch Nursing Center, you may want to think twice about that. That's for certain. There is a glimpse of what is to come. That is my mother there, who I'm dedicating the show to. In case you don't know, this show is listener supported, and I'm stalling for a second while more and more listeners come in. But at the same time, I really do want to say something about Mother's Day. So I guess I'll use the time here that people trickle in. 135 always ends up meaning 140 to someone. I think it's important if you are, with your mother or whatever, to let her know that you remembered the day. I've talked to a number of people today that have said they didn't call their mom, or I haven't talked to my mother in years. I always wonder about that. I get to give some good news here. I want to invite you to read my article that was published in Blasting News about the obituary show. Now check out this T-shirt. It looks like a normal, like growly, snake, whatever kind of shirt. But look real close, and you can see that there's faces in all of the letters, all of it, and the green in the back is the same way. One of the coolest T-shirts I've ever seen. All right, guys. If I stall anymore, I have no listeners. So happy Mother's Day for those that it is happy for. And we're going to go on to get some dunce cap happening. For those of you that don't know what's going on, and we cover the stupidest stories of the month. Our leaders, the people around us, our fellow citizens, those who, no matter how much we screw up in life, and believe me, friends, you are listening to one screw up even now. Trust me, it makes you feel much better about yourself. My wife and I would always watch fail videos before we go to sleep because it would remind us that there are people in the world dumber than us. Listen to this: smoking gun. Police ID suspect who wore the world's worst disguise during a game shop robbery. Now look. Wow, just look at the image here where my cursor is. You can see the man's face. Plus, he's as big as a bull moose, so he's going to stand out. This is just priceless. Look at this. He was arrested on a pair of felony charges and booked at Camden County Jails, being held without bond as of 4/20. How appropriate. Make sure you watch the 420 show if you didn't. My fictional buddy Puff does a great job. Georgia police have identified the man who burglarized a game shop store while wearing the world's worst disguise. What was it? A plastic wrapping used to package water bottles. Cops report that Kerry Hammond Jr. is wanted in connection with last Friday's burglary at the video game store at St. Mary's in City in Georgia. Investigators allege that the brilliant, mind-blowingly rocket scientist kind of smart 22-year-old Hammond sought to hide his identity by wearing a plastic wrapping around his head. But Hammond, who is 6'1" and weighs 275 whopping pounds, did a poor job of obscuring his face. As seen in video surveillance stills released by police, a distinctive tattoo on Hammond's right forearm can also be seen in the security video. Now you see what the Dunce Cap of the Month award is, right? He was last spotted driving a white Ford 2006. So basically, he was dubbed the Big Dasani by one Georgia wag, and he is seen below the mugshot snapped after a prior arrest. Of course, the update on that is that they caught him. So he grabbed a plastic bag that you could see through that said Dasani. Moved the Dasani so that he could see out of it with a tattoo showing, weighing 275 pounds. And I'm willing to guarantee, even though I didn't say it, I'm willing to guarantee that he has shopped there before. I bet you he's a regular customer. Friends, the Dunce Cap of the Month, that's what we do, and we ain't even to the winner yet. We're going to keep going. Remember the story we did about banning knives? Look up the correct views, ban knives. We've joked about it for years on this show. Well, it would take somebody as dumb as Mayor Khan to actually do it, but according to the Daily Wire, he declares intense new knife control policies to stop the epidemic of stabbings, because we all know that with all the shootings we've seen in London, that the gun ban has worked so very well to stifle the gun violence there. So we're going to ban some knives, and then the knives will be banned. And one of these days, they're going to ban heroin so that people quit using heroin. Oh, the Invisible Man just told me that heroin's already illegal. So, okay, well, I'm sure that worked. Anyway, they're probably going to ban crack. Well, I'm not getting anywhere here, but I guess they ban crack too. But anyway, when they ban these knives, it's going to work. Listen, an epidemic of stabbings and acid attacks in London has gotten so bad that London Mayor Sadiq Khan is announcing brand new knife control policies designed to keep these weapons of war out of the hands of Londoners looking. The tough, immediate measures involve an incredible police crackdown, a ban on home deliveries of knives and acid, and expanding law enforcement stop and search powers so that police can stop anyone before the threat. So basically, we're going to go to stop and frisk. We're going to forsake all of our rights over there in the UK. We're going to completely alleviate all of that. We're going to ban knives, and that's going to work so much better than everything else that we've ever banned. And we're going to stop acid attacks. Now, acid attacks, how does that happen? Well, you're not supposed to point out that a lot of times that is Islamic-based. And with the influx of migrants they had that were not properly vetted, they ended up letting some of the terrorists in. Am I being racist? No. A lot of people fled Syria who were Islamic, who were being slaughtered. However, because they were not vetted and they just opened the door, many of the people who were doing the slaughtering, particularly those wise enough to cover their face, are now in England doing things like acid attacks against against Christians and non-Muslims and Muslims. That's what I'm saying. Acid attacks? I'm sorry, that's not exactly a calling card of the West. You can argue what you want about guns, but acid attacks typically thus far has not been the calling card of the West. Mayor Khan, the revenge of Khan indeed, announced on Friday that the city had created a violent crime task force of 120 officers tasked with rooting out knife-wielding individuals in public places. $50 million have gone into it. So carrying a knife now is a really big deal. It used to be that you were particularly allowed to carry them, particularly for self-defense. So they're disarming the people in every way possible. Because, if somebody's going to buy acid and throw it in someone's face, they're going to definitely listen to a gun ban. Parliament is also going to take heavy control against legislation when it resumes this week. They're going after zombie knives, which are manufactured for person-to-person combat and are making them 18 years old, or basically the flashy knives that every teenager in the world likes to own at some point in their life. And you know what? Many adults do too. Many people that like science fiction movies, that like fantasy artwork, whatever, they like that. No, can't have them. Absolutely, it's going to be banned. Banning this hammer in a minute, I'm sure. All right, friends. This one I wrote for the Conservative Daily Post, and I'm just going to read it the way I wrote it because the stupidity is so grand that I had expected it to win the Dunce Cap of the Month award outright. But believe it or not, we found even dumber. So it's among the last few, I promise you. All male acquirer gets crushed by political correctness, forced to accept women. Instead, they're going to change their name. As nonsensical as it sounds, I wrote, there are still people who insist that the Boy Scouts of America should allow girls as members. And we all know how that went. This was written just before that. For those who've assumed that the silliness wouldn't spread to wings of the PC culture, horrible news comes from the Times of London. They've reported that members of the Derbyshire Constabulary Choir decreed political correctness yesterday after the area's chief constable severed ties with them. Two stories from Jolly Old England today. Peter Goodman took over last summer, told the choir to accept women or face losing its 60-year association with the police force. It was said that a mixed group would take several years to transform and were forced them to change their name to the Derbyshire Community Male Voice Choir. Now, it gets worse than that because they're almost painted as like bigots and hate mongers here for not wanting females in a male choir. Now, this calls to mind yesterday the Empire. Shout out. They're always good to my band, Passing Time. Facebook.com/PassingTimeBand. Always good to us. They had yesterday, I believe it was, all female fronted bands. How long is it going to be till we're not allowed to have things like that anymore? They're going to have to be, well, if the guy is in a dress, that's still a female fronted band. Why don't we make sure we get the show? How long do you think that's going to be, friends? I mean, listen, we're going to go on with this because it really is worthy of dunce cap awareness as we move forward with the show. The Burton Mail writes that Tony McClatchy, a member of the group, angrily suggested The World Gone Mad as the new moniker. That would have been a great new name. It does take a very long time to restructure entire vocal harmonies when you're changing octaves and keys due to the pitches of women. In today's world, just enjoying the sound of one gender singing without the other sex for sound purposes, not exclusionary ones, I wrote, is considered bigoted, and even art is suffering as a result. Who knows if the art form will even continue, which is a shame considering its long and vibrant history. Since it would take too long and be utterly foolish to have women in the men's singing group, just as it is when the inverse is true, the 62-year-old choir could not keep Derbyshire Constabulary as its name. Due to political correctness, the very liberals who used to stand up for the freedom to say anything now work to limit what titles can be used. McClatchy said, "The world has gone mad. This is not sexist, but a male voice choir is a male voice choir. I could not believe what I was reading when I saw it." He added, "Speaking for myself, there is no way on earth the Gressley Male Voice Choir would entertain the thought. The Gressley Male Voice Choir has been going on since 1904, and the male choirs were first started in Wales. We have a good reputation, and we are exactly what we say, a male voice choir. I respect ladies' choirs very much. There are some very good ones about, like all male voice choirs as well. Do you believe that that even has to be spelled out in this day and age? Feel free if you want to leave a message. I got some people trickling in. Go to Facebook, Samuel DeGangi, or to the Correct Views, and give me a message, and we'll ring in, and I'll hear you. The singer's proclamation of common sense will likely be called hate speech. As he also said, I would ask people to come and see us perform on Saturday and make your own judgment. And it says where they were going to be playing. Again, the Dunce Cap of the Month happens for April, for May, because I can't have May's Dunce Cap until May is over. Greg Roy, the reader of the Burton Mail, commented, ludicrous. I hope they are banning any female voice choirs too then. Another reader named Julia Langford typed pathetic. Very well said, my dear. Kevin Griffin is meeting with the Derbyshire Constabulary Male Voice Choir, and he was summoned to a meeting with Mr. Goodman, who said that if women were not allowed in, the force would not support him. So now they can't perform at the police force because they're a men's choir that doesn't let women into the men's choir. Bear in mind, no financial help is given from the Derbyshire Constabulary, and the vocal group has raised €750,000 for different charities. Well, that's going to go the way of the dodo bird now, isn't it? Political correctness is actually making it harder for those in need to get the funds that could help them in any number of ways as the society in the West becomes unhinged. The whole supposed mindset of the PC snowflake is to help people, the opposite of what is taking place here. Chief Constable Peter Goodman declared, we are an equal opportunities employer, and we are committed to having an organization where there are no enclaves where people from different backgrounds cannot go. This is ridiculous. This isn't a bathroom, it's a choir. Don't get me started on that either. When he fails to understand is that what he fails, I can read, is that the group would only be discriminatory in nature if ladies were somehow barred from forming a similar group. What Goodman speaks about is not inclusivism, but rather fascism. Blind to this clear truth, Goodman also said, we need to represent our communities in every aspect of public presence. Listen to this bonehead. Having a male voice representing the organization is incompatible with this. I can't even read it without the voice, especially as there are no members of the choir who are employed by or who volunteer with us. I wish them all the very best in the future. Many people may not say the same to you. No, they probably do. As Rome was falling, it could not have looked more foolish than the West does today. I wrote, friends, and if you think it doesn't get any dumber, oh, believe me, it does. We've got Chris Christie. Now, anytime you've got Twisty Christie, you know you're in for it. More twisty treats than brain cells, my friends. The hell. Christie, if Trump uses hyperbolic style with Mueller, it could send him to jail. Basically, he's trying to say, and this is why he didn't get the Dunce Cap of the Month award. He's only getting it because I know what he tried to say, it's just not what he said. Then again, with him, you never know. He's trying to say that since Trump likes to say things like, we have the greatest economy the world has ever known, and somebody will point to some economy from some tiny segment in history when he was speaking hyperbolically, as it were. If he says, I'm going to kill you, really threaten my life, you can't really say things in a generalization. You can't speak generally when talking to authorities. When talking to the FBI, you need to be exact. You need to be precise. You need to be everything I just wasn't a second ago. You know what I mean? You need to be on point. That's what he tried to say. But as you listen to him, I'm still not convinced he's not saying this. I'm really not. As you listen to him, it becomes very clear that he's sounding as if he's saying, since Trump is lying, he needs to make sure that he doesn't speak to special counsel because he's going to give himself away. But there's been no proof that Trump has lied at all. As a matter of fact, the House investigation just ended, saying that as it pertains to Russia, he did nothing wrong at all. But listen to this bonehead. And we're going to, trust me, we've only got two left after this, and it's the runner-up and the winner. Former Governor Chris Christie on Sunday warned that President Trump's hyperbolic style could have consequences if he testifies to special counsel. One of the things that makes the president who he is that he's a salesman. And a salesman at times tend to be hyperbolic. He said this on ABC's this week. Okay, that's okay when you're working on Congress. It's not okay when you're sitting talking to federal agents, because 18 USC 1001 is false statements to federal agents. That's a crime, and it could send you to jail. Okay, now if he'd have stopped there, it would have been fine. But he says he doesn't think Trump should ever walk to that room with Mueller, and he is currently investigating, as he currently investigates the Russian fiasco. Trump has in the past said that he'd be more than happy to speak to special counsel. But I don't know. Christie comes off as saying, like as if Trump doesn't have any kind of legal counsel or anything, that Giuliani so far has dropped the ball, but as if Giuliani's not going to go ahead and give him some kind of pointers here. But listen.
He should never walk into that room with Robert Mueller, because in the end, one of the things that makes the president who he is that he's a salesman. And salesmen at times tend to be hyperbolic, right? And this president certainly has tended to be that. That's okay when you're out in the campaign hustings. That's okay when you're working on Congress. It is not okay when you're sitting talking to federal agents, because 18 USC 1001 is false statements to federal agents. That's a crime that can send you to jail.
Again, I'm pretty sure Trump has no intention of appearing with him without his lawyer. I don't know, Christie. Call it a hunch. But don't worry, Twisty Christie, you are not dumb enough to win the Dunce Cap of the Month award. Neither was this, but it was awful damn close. Friends, if you're going to use somebody else's urine to pass a urine test, hey, we all have our vices. I get it. How many people listening to this? Again, hit me up on Facebook, The Correct Views, Sam DeGangi, Digangi, or ring in my message if you wish to be on the show. How many people thinking if you're going to use somebody else's urine, maybe it should be, I don't know, clean urine? Told you, friends, it's the Dunce Cap of the Month Award. St. Clairsville. Oh, hold on. Now I got to go back to I got clicker happy. St. Clairsville, Ohio. I've got I'm in Ohio myself here, so this is not all that far from me. As I try to get the damn site to come back up. The woman used, as I try to find this. Now look at that. It just vanished. Did they take the article down? They used tainted urine, literally. Dumb enough to use tainted urine. And she wound up in prison. I cannot get the story to come up now, which is hilarious to me. But she used tainted urine and then wondered, I'm going to try to find it real quickly, wondered why she ended up arrested. And she is in prison. It didn't even say jail. It said prison. Let me type this in here real quick. Yahoo News, I'm telling you, their site has really, really gone downhill. I can't be the only one that notices it. All right, there we go. Even lets you down live on the air. Maybe they should get the Dunce Cap of the Month Award. An Ohio woman might want to ask some questions if she tries to borrow someone's urine again to pass a drug test. WTOV-TV reports the 24-year-old Kiana Wallace was sentenced to 18 months in prison on Monday in eastern Ohio's Beaumont County after submitting a borrowed urine sample that tested positive for drugs. Way to go! Wallace pleaded guilty earlier this month to attempted tampering with evidence. The judge, Mr. Frank Friato, called the failed urine swap bizarre and told Wallace he wouldn't allow her to make a mockery of the drug and alcohol testing system. 6 months in jail followed by probation for drug possession. And the defender, public defender, who didn't do anything for her, I guess, didn't give a comment. Now, let me tell you something, friends. I'm going to be dead honest here. I'm against the war on drugs. I really am. I don't think you should be allowed to peddle it on playgrounds. But I don't have a problem with safe houses or whatever. If someone's going to throw their life away, then so be it. Okay. Again, I think that kind of thing should be voted on in terms of, I don't think the federal government or the state government should just move in and start letting people, this is a safe house that you're going to pay for whether you like it or not. It's still our tax dollars. But the bigger scheme is I'm not against legalization. People can make their own decisions. And in countries that have done this, you see a lot less crime, you see a lot less violence. But not here. Here we have stupidity, and here we have, God help us, the Dunce Cap of the Month Award winner. Oh, yes, there's our Dum-Dee music. Let me remind you, it's listener supported. If you want to donate to the show, you can do so at the Correct Views at hotmail.com. Do it through PayPal. Every penny you give to me goes towards a better show and helps me mail these Dunce Caps. Oh, yes, the great Dum-Dee music. All right, friends, are you ready for the stupidest? Because here it comes. As I go to screen share. Holy Cross Theology professor says Jesus was a drag queen with queer desires. Now, before we even start, those who are Christians are already outraged. I'm not going to address you. I'm a Christian. I think it's stupid too. But I want to address it from a historical vantage point. What is known about Christ, even apart from the Bible, according to Josephus, for those of you that don't know, Josephus is not a book in the Bible. He's a historian. According to Josephus, a number of facts are listed. Rose from the dead, had followers that they blamed, I believe, for the fire in Rome. I think that's verified by Josephus. Don't you think if he walked around in a dress, the historian might have mentioned it? How many historians do you know of that live today that, if they're writing about anyone, would not have written down that they were a cross-dresser? Forensics Files talks about a cross-dresser in an episode I saw a couple of days ago. Look up the history. Look up world history. Type in famous cross-dressers. You know how people know that? Because historians wrote that down about them. That's how we know the disgusting things that leaders like Caligula did. He would take children and have them swim under him while he was nude taking a bath. We know about these things because historians wrote them down. So don't you think if Jesus Christ were the cross-dresser, someone named Josephus or any historian that, was taking the time to write history, don't you think that it mentioned it? Or don't you think a college would be wise enough to understand the basic bit of history that I just gave you with a whole lot more extent? Because they don't. The theology program at the Jesuit-run College of the Holy Cross has taken on a new tone ever since the school appointed a gender-obsessed chair of the New Testament studies who claims that Jesus was a drag queen, a new article contends. Anytime you hear new tone, you know you're in trouble because the word says that it doesn't change. So you know you're in trouble as soon as you hear that. Writing in the Fenwick Review, Eleanor Riley of the Holy Cross class of 2018 argues in a March 26th article that Professor Tatswang Benny Liu's unconventional readings of Scripture have brought a new theological presence to the Holy Cross. Well, I can take a crap in your Easter basket. That's not bringing you a new aspect to your candy. And that's exactly what this is doing to historical Christian teachings. Letting the facts speak for themselves, Ms. Riley suggests that a centrality of sex and gender to this way of thinking about the New Testament significantly colors the way that Professor Liu presents Jesus Christ to students at the Catholic Church. The point is, it's not factual. It's like going ahead and saying that Judas was an Asian. You might decide that you feel that that's more inclusive, but Judas was not an Asian. Nothing against Jews, nothing against Asians. Anybody hearing me? In a remarkable rereading, I would say rewriting of the Bible, Professor Liu has argued that Jesus is not only the King of Israel and the King of the Jews, but also a king, a drag king, as presented in the New Testament Gospel of John. St. John's constant references to Jesus wanting water, giving water, and leaking water speak to Jesus' gender indeterminacy and hence his cross-dressing and other queer desires, Liu contends. Now, again, you also have to remember that we have historical proof that Pilate killed Christ. We covered that on the show recently. So, when they were labeling, why should we kill this man? Again, cross-dressing was illegal in the first century. Why should we kill this man, right? Why? Don't you think they would have mentioned he likes to dress in a dress? Don't you think they would have said that he likes to wear bangles and look like a girl so that they would have had a reason to kill him instead of having to go through everything that they did and hustling him around to 3 different courts, oftentimes in the middle of the night? They went through all that work to hold court in the middle of the night, which wasn't common, in case you don't know that. It's no more common than it is today. And yet, they didn't mention that he liked, to dress in women's clothing. Reading everything through the lens of gender, Professor Liu finds sex in the most unlikely places in the life of Jesus. The episode of Jesus washing the apostles' feet at the Last Supper, for example, is suggestive, like a literary striptease, and even seductive, because it shows and withholds at the same time, he claims. Yeah, Liu, that must be it. Even though he describes it as being one's servant and humbling oneself to the most, because people often wore sandals and had no socks, it was considered a lowly task. Liu here, in lieu of the facts, has missed it. In the Gospel of St. John, it makes clear that Jesus is a Jew, but is less clear about whether Jesus is a biological male. Good Lord. Yeah, it just says he all the time. In passages that could be considered blasphemous to devout Christians, Liu eroticizes Jesus' relationship with his disciples and even God the Father, and said that Jesus himself needs others to come cum with the Father. Told you, Dunce Cap of the Month, friends. What I'm suggesting is that when Jesus' body is being penetrated, his thoughts are on his Father. He is, in other words, imagining his passion and experience as possibly masochistic, a sexual relation with his own Father. Oh, yeah, oh, that's just beautiful. Moreover, the position and prestige will accompany an endowed chair in religious studies testimony, said Miss Riley. He continues to be held as an example and a bold successor that learned and discerning tradition of the Catholic and Jesuit Holy Cross. All right, friends, it's time for you to see what they're getting. First of all, I'm going to show you the hat. Then I'm going to show you the award. Now, I'm probably mailing these out next month. I'm going to mail them 2 at a time. But, friends, I mean, you can't make this up. You simply cannot make it up. Here you go. Dunce. Okay, first of all, she came out looking a little bit like cross between a Betty Boop and Alice Cooper, but it happened. There, my lady crucified, and it says, "This isn't how it happened." You can read that, right? Oh, sorry. Not then. So I'm reading it to you. Have you not been warned about what happened to those who take away or add to this? Revelations 22:19. My attempt at drawing a Bible. And my devil came out really cool. I like how you teach. All right, that's going to get mailed to them. And my printer died. So as soon as, actually, I threw it out the window of the car because it died and I couldn't do anything with it. Oh, yes, screen share. If my screen will share. Gotta love Google. You never know. It's always 50-50. This is what they're getting. The Dunce Cap of the Month award. There's that cross-dressing teacher, wannabe Jesus person. The Dunce Cap of the Month award. This one goes to the rather foolish leaders at the Jesuit-run College of the Holy Cross who parades around a man who implies that Jesus Christ was a drag queen. While freedom of speech exists for us all, to actually give such a mindless notion time in a classroom when it is based in no way on actual history or reality is a teaching travesty. For failing to understand that easy to grasp fact and for catering to an agenda of the PC crowd, you win the Dunce Cap of the Month award, where, well, for you have certainly earned it. And then I put the address at the bottom. Yes, I saw the typo. I'll fix it before I print it. Friends, that's your show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for donating at the correct views of hotmail.com through PayPal. And thank you for hitting share. Good night. God bless. And hey, happy Mother's Day to all of you who have, real mothers, not Jesus or the mother. Happy Mother's Day.